Welcome back to Breakfast Central to Lisa and Felicity right here. Don't forget to catch us on social media. News Central TV is where to be. Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. Log on to the website newscentral.africa. We're still talking business today. This morning. We still have Tunji Andrews, founder, Awaba and financial analyst. Always a regular here. Tunji is still with us via phone. Tunji, we were talking about why the government needs to borrow in respective of, that with this cap of $40 per barrel. So you were continuing your statement earlier. So carry on.
Yes. So it's basically a situation around increased expenditure, but there's also the fact that we've not cut down costs or expenses, or So despite the fact that we've had reduced revenue over the last maybe, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7 years, we need to expand what we spend on. Government size, we continue to expand ideas on how much we spend on capital expenditure, recurrent expenditure. It's been expanding every year, despite the fact that the revenue has been going in the opposite direction. So it is only likely that we will continue to borrow until government, and I don't necessarily mean this government particularly, but until government in Nigeria as a whole rethinks governance, you will continue to see that trend.
Well, what happens to the excess that's now coming in? You budgeted 40, now it's almost doubled. What happens to the excess money? What do we do with it?
Well, so if you look at the way revenue works and budget expectations work, is that recurrent expenditure is spent on first. So even if you look at how budget implementation works, you will realize that our recurrence is always almost close to the 90 percentile completion rate, while expenditure is always very low. So what will happen is that the money we get from revenue will go into servicing quickly things like recurrent expenditure, salaries, government overhead, and things like that. But we still need to build roads. We need to build rail, hospitals, schools. So usually that is where the borrowing goes into. There's always a clear line between what we borrow and where the money is going to. Usually there's always a clear line. It's just that it's not as clear as we want it to be.
All right, Tunji. I think we can always go on and on when it comes to Nigeria's budget, and especially when it comes to the excess, the $40 per barrel, and as you always love to point out here, the cost of governance in the country. But Tunji, let's segue quickly to another issue that we want to talk about this morning, and we need to really touch on this one. It's all about France, and their proposal from the French government to donate approximately 6 million euros to finance the World Trade Organization's technical assistance program for developing countries and the least developing countries from 2021 to 2023. Now, we know that this intervention is aimed at improving, taking part and understanding in global trade rules and standards. But the big question is, how does this benefit, Africa?
France has actually contributed has contributed some 28 million to the World Trade Organization Trust Fund in 20 years. What does this move mean for Africa? Is this giving a man fish or teaching him how to fish? Over to you, Tunji.
I don't think it's either. So it's neither he's teaching him how to fish, nor is he giving him fish. I feel it's like giving him bait. So here's the thing, right? And I think we've spoken about this before on this show. When France needs to trade, basically. So that is the plain, simple truth. Now, giving Africa 20 plus billion euros is a way, and basically African countries are always excited to receive any sort of money. So the idea is, let's give them something that they will be happy with, so that they will deal our trade with us. It makes no sense business-wise if you want to look at it from our own perspective, Because why exactly are we taking that money from you? What is it going to do to our economies? What is it going to do to our infrastructure? But on the real sense of it, what this money guarantees for you is that we are a market for your products, and also you have first-line access to some of our raw materials. So, from my perspective, I don't think it's a thing that we should be excited about, but it is global trade, and that's what the WTO is there for, just to facilitate trade. But if we want to look at it basically from an Africa-centric perspective, we should be asking for more.
Oh, that's quite interesting. We should be asking for more. Coming from you, Tunji, I'll say that's, I'm really surprised about that one. But Tunji, really, how much power does the WTO really hold to make things happen, with or without, our very own sister from Nigeria, Ngozi Okonjo, right there, right now, to run things?
So the WTO is like a trade facilitator. It's a kind of switchboard that brings everybody together. If we don't want to trade, you won't still trade. It's just like the way the United Nations has countries that are not at peace with one another, if you get what I mean. So the WTO has many countries that necessarily do not want to trade and don't trust each other, but it basically is there as the unbiased umpire that is able to bring everybody together and, smoothing deals out. Is the WTO going to work in our own behalf? I don't necessarily think so. The only thing I think that Okonjo-Iweala being there serves for us is that whenever the deals concern us, she's able to speak about it with a little bit of understanding of what Nigeria needs and what Africa needs. But she's meant to be there as an unbiased umpire to deal for everybody equally.
All right.
Okay, France seems convinced that the WTO has a major role to play in the wake of the economic crisis and easing trade tensions, as well as, settling disputes. How much power does the organization really hold to make things happen?
So I don't think it has much power. So here's the thing, right? So before the lockdown, if you remember, there was growing tension between the U.S. and China, which was already affecting global crude oil prices and so many things across the world.
Yes.
Then we entered into a lockdown, the world hit a pandemic and things like that. So basically, the only thing I see the WTO doing right now is trying to see how much of the world can be opened up in terms of global trade. There are still some parts that are still not opened up completely. So really, the WTO's work is really just like, if you want to call it in football terms, a brand ambassador that is going around, just a goodwill message and saying, come back to trade, come back to the table and things like that.
Yeah.
But the real trade and the real heavy lifting is still on the countries themselves.
Okay.
If Nigeria doesn't want to trade, there's nothing the WTO can do.
True. Fair enough. All right, Tunji, thank you very much for joining us on The Breakfast this morning.
Yeah, the
Thank you for having me.
umpire, and WTO as ambassador. Who can be VAR? I asked again. The guy in the White House, the former guy in the White House has gone. He raised lots of questions. Well, thank you very much, Tunji. I'm sure we'll have you once again. Really give us more insight on all these issues.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll take a quick breather. We've got sports up next, and also we'll go straight to what's been on our social media timelines. I'm sure Felicity's got something very cheeky for us this morning, and I really just can't wait to see it right after this break.
Stay with us.